This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
What I think is interesting about this case, this story, is you can be highly legal and unethical.
It's no secret that Dalton, Illinois has become a focal point for local political drama, with the latest clash between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and Trustee Tiana Beller grabbing everyone's attention. This isn't just a typical small-town government dispute. It's a saga of accusations, power struggles, and heated debates. Let's face it, political intrigue on this level is hard to ignore, and the core of this ongoing feud lies a serious issue of accountability. Trustee Beller has made it her mission to challenge what she and many others see as Mayor Henyard's lack of transparency. As a result, Dalton's board meetings have become anything but routine, turning into fiery arenas where the town's deep divisions are laid bare.
In a room filled with curiosity and concern, Tiffany Henyard addressed her constituents.
The Thornton Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor invited the community to Township Talk, where she responded to our report about her use of the township credit card by mentioning
Kiana Baylor, a vocal trustee on the Dalton Village Board, has been unrelenting in her scrutiny of the village's finances, particularly what she describes as dubious spending. Her efforts have put her at odds with Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose leadership style has been labeled as unconventional and controversial. Henyard has faced accusations of mismanaging funds, overspending, and even obstructing paper trails to avoid accountability. The tension between the two came to a head during a recent board meeting when the topic of inauguration expenses was raised. The village had reportedly footed the bill for Henyard's inauguration, a matter Baylor wasn't about to let slide without some pointed questions. Her tone was sharp yet professional as she asked whether the support of the expenses adhered to a set dollar amount. And then it's also just, a lot of reports. The village attorney stepped in to explain. The attorney claimed the expenses fell under a special event fund already budgeted for such occasions, adding that no single invoice exceeded $5,000. However, Baylor was quick to highlight a glaring issue. The invoices had been strategically split into smaller amounts, each under $5,000, effectively bypassing the need for prior board approval. This explanation only deepened her concern, as it suggested a loophole in the system ripe for manipulation. The attorney conceded that while individual invoices under $5,000 didn't require pre-approval, the board could approve them retroactively, and impressed, Baylor stood firm in her critique, calling the process flawed and vulnerable to abuse. When it came time to vote, she cast her ballot against the motion, reiterating her belief that the procedure lacked the transparency and accountability the village desperately needed.
There will be no comments, there will be anything, it will be me addressing you guys.
Yet Henyard defended the practice, asserting that the expenses were within the allocated budget and dismissing Baylor's objections as unnecessary drama. She further suggested that such concerns could have been addressed privately rather than aired at a public meeting. This preference for resolving conflicts behind closed doors has been a hallmark of Henyard's approach, seemingly aimed at avoiding public exposure of internal disputes. Baylor, however, remained resolute, emphasizing the importance of transparency and open communication. She argued that trustees have a duty to question and ensure accountability for decisions made on behalf of the public, and that these discussions should take place openly rather than in secrecy. I have some internet work. Her statement resonated with the audience, drawing nods of agreement and sparking murmurs of approval, further intensifying the tension in the room.
The administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily...
Henyard has faced accusations of rule-breaking before, with critics pointing to her history of questionable spending. This includes tens of thousands of dollars in unreported purchases, taxpayer-funded extravagant trips, and a pattern of authorizing expenses without sufficient oversight. Adding to the controversy is an ongoing federal investigation into her office. What often fuels public outrage, however, is Henyard's tendency to dismiss criticism as personal attacks. In a previous meeting, she went so far as to compare herself to a martyr, referencing Jesus Christ and rhetorically asking, why wouldn't I think they would treat me the same way? The deeper issue, however, seems to lie in Henyard's approach, or lack thereof, to governance. For many residents, the inauguration expenses are merely a symptom of a larger problem, a budget process that appears opaque and poorly managed. It's hard. It's hard. During the same contentious meeting, Baylor raised concerns about the overall budget that had been presented. She questioned its lack of clarity and pointed out inconsistencies that made it difficult for trustees to fully understand how public funds were being allocated. The budget was delivered at 3:26 p.m., leaving little time for a proper review. Baylor expressed her frustration, stating, "The residents haven't even had a chance to see this, and now we're expected to make an informed decision." She called for a detailed, itemized budget analysis, similar to what had been provided in prior years, to ensure transparency and accountability. However, Henyard seemed more focused on pushing the process forward than addressing these concerns, leaving critical issues unresolved.
Community concerns in Thornton Township and a push to regulate what some call out-of-control spending by township
Henyard's shift in behavior is particularly jarring to those familiar with her earlier tenure in Dalton politics. As a trustee, she was known for her meticulous approach, scrutinizing every budget line item and questioning even minor discrepancies. For instance, she once challenged a budget line for tree trimming, saying, "I understand we're making cuts, but I get a ton of complaints about trees. I think that amount should stay where it is." She even advocated for increasing funding for tree care, showcasing her deep interest in these specifics. Fast forward to today, and that same level of scrutiny is noticeably absent. Critics have pointed out the stark double standard in her approach to governance, adding fuel to the ongoing controversies surrounding her leadership. The tension escalated further during the meeting when the topic of the village's credit card controversy resurfaced. Although the finance director claimed the cards were canceled last year, Trustee Baylor was unconvinced, questioning why they were still being used. The atmosphere grew tense as Henyard accused Baylor and another trustee of seizing control of the village's bank accounts. Baylor quickly refuted the claim, presenting emails from the bank that indicated Henyard's own team, not the trustees, had access to the accounts in question. The discussion revealed charges on electronic warrant lists that seemed to benefit only one individual, further amplifying the narrative of mismanagement and mistrust. Many
tense moments in tonight's meeting. At times, Supervisor Tiffany Henyard took on her fellow trustees when it came to money and expenses, even accusing some of them of spreading.
The most striking feature of recent village meetings is the growing divide between Mayor Henyard and the trustees. While Trustee Baylor and her colleagues push for transparency and collaboration, Henyard appears focused on consolidating her authority, often reminding the board that day-to-day operations fall under her jurisdiction. Though tactful in her assertions, her approach has done little to dispel the perception that her primary concern is accumulating power rather than addressing the needs of Dalton's residents. This dynamic has left many residents frustrated with the lack of progress and the incessant political infighting. The community's patience is wearing thin as critical issues remain unresolved. One resident, Daryl Lean, voiced his exasperation to reporters, saying, "We need action, somebody who is actually going to work for the people, not themselves." His sentiment resonates with many in Dalton who feel that Henyard's leadership has exacerbated the village's financial woes, including a deficit running into the millions. Critics argue that Henyard's tenure has been marked by extravagant spending and an inability to foster cooperation within the boardable. These failures, they claim, have only deepened the challenges facing Dalton, leaving residents increasingly disillusioned and eager for meaningful change. The race is a race to the bottom for a new base.
That I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started
The sheer audacity of it all is hard to ignore. Mayor Henyard, once a champion of accountability and transparency, now appears to be doing everything in her power to avoid them. Trustee Baylor's persistence in demanding answers has earned her admiration from some, but it has also made her a target. Henyard has repeatedly tried to discredit Baylor, accusing her of stirring unnecessary drama and undermining the board's unity. Yet Baylor remains resolute. As the meeting concluded, it was clear that the tension between Baylor and Henyard is far from dissipating. Their ongoing conflict has become emblematic of the deep divisions within the village. For Baylor, this battle is about restoring accountability and trust in local governance. For Henyard, it's about maintaining her grip on power amidst mounting criticism. For the residents of Dalton, this clash is just another chapter in a long and turbulent saga of local politics gone awry. But the crucial question remains: will the village continue to repeat its past mistakes? Or can it weather this leadership crisis and emerge stronger? One thing is certain: the drama surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard and Trustee Kiana Baylor is far from over. And just when it seems the situation couldn't become any more chaotic, Baylor's unwavering determination promises to keep the spotlight on Dalton. Hold on tight. This political storm is far from reaching its conclusion.